Is there anything in the next few months or several months that Jon could do where you could say, okay, I actually trust him to put him on that card?
Let me ask you, what do you think Jon would do in the next couple of months that would make me trust putting him on the White House card? So I already said that I don't trust him, and you're asking me what could he do for me to trust him in the next 3 months. You don't trust him.
Well, yes, but you talk to him. I don't.
Yeah. No, I don't talk to him either. I haven't talked to him at all. If I had to make odds, it's 1,000,000,000 to 1 that I put Jon Jones on the White House card.
All right, so last week, Jon Jones officially re-entered the UFC's testing pool, and I'm assuming that the only reason he did is because he heard the men's testing pool would have shirtless dudes in it. I'm sure he would have preferred to enter the men's testing nude beach, but hey, what can you do? And while at the UFC 319 press conference, Dana White seems to be standing his ground by reasserting that he's against putting Jon on the upcoming UFC White House card because the dude's unreliable and untrustworthy. Then Jon had his own response to Dana's response, which was so weird and poorly written that I can't help but think he wrote it while he was high on drugs, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But seeing as the White House event is seemingly going to be held on CBS, which is a part of Paramount, and seeing as I haven't made a video on the Paramount deal yet, I'll also be giving you my thoughts on the next era of the UFC, and yeah, in this video I'm going to be talking about all this and more. Okay, Jon Jones is back in the testing pool. It's pretty crazy to me how much I've come to hate this dude, considering how much of a fan I was of him when he first joined the UFC. And before any of you guys start complaining about my use of the word hate, I don't care. I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm allowed to hate someone if I so choose. Listen, if I had any confidence that Jones had any intention of coming back to MMA to continue fighting beyond one singular fight, I would be much more open to his return, but we all know that he just wants to come back for the attention that he'll get from fighting at the White House. He does not want to continue his career in fighting. He wants the notoriety and publicity of headlining the White House card so that he can, 1, feed his own ego, which is the biggest thing for him, and 2, so that he can use the clout to promote his other businesses. Don't get it twisted, I think it's a good move for a fighter to leverage their fighting career so that they can start other businesses with it, but can we not agree that the honor of fighting at the White House should go to an American guy who hasn't spent the last 2 years running away from a British guy?
Chances it's Jones Aspinall.
I think that could happen too.
Actually.
Yeah.
Do you think Jones has been ducking him?
Yes. Why did you drag this out all the way until June when you knew you weren't going to fight him? He gave them a price tag. He said, I'll do it for this number.
What number?
I believe it's in the $30 million range. And I think he didn't think that they would come up with the number. And they did. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, he said, nah, on second thought, I'm out.
What?
And that's why when he announced his retirement, Dana said, he gave me his word. And then he went back on his word.
Whoa.
This shit is un-American, it is cowardly, and on top of it all, it is gay. And hey, I consider myself a pretty fair-thinking person, so let me say this. If Jon actually put his money where his mouth is and accepted a fight against Alexander Volkov, Curtis Blades, or Sergey Pavlovich in like the springtime of next year so that he can at least pretend to be committed to fighting, then I'd be much warmer to the idea of him returning. I don't even think what I'm saying is all that crazy. Jon probably beats everyone at heavyweight other than Tom anyway. But is there anybody that seriously believes that Jon has any desire to do anything other than do the White House event just so that he can retire again? Now, you might be saying that if any fighter deserves to be on the White House card, Jon Jones is it, but is that actually true though? I would agree that it would at least be better if Jon had a shred of honor and retired after he beat Cyril Gane back in March of 2023 and then decided to come back for the White House card. That way we could have had a heavyweight division that was functioning and moving in the 2 years that he was away, but instead for the last 2 years we had to deal with this ducking Aspinall and making a mockery of what it actually means to be UFC champion.
But now it's become Jon versus Tom would be the biggest fight ever at the White House. And even Dana has talked about it, that would be the wish list.
Do you want me to be honest?
Please.
It has spent 0 seconds in my mind.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. I'm not interested, mate. Not interested. And the world shouldn't be interested either, because what's the point? This is false hope.
This is why I'm really happy to be seeing Dana using his better judgment here and pushing back at the idea of Jon returning at the White House. Stand your base, Dana! Don't give in to this prima donna again! I'm just tired of seeing Jon get everything he wants, even when he's been acting like an entitled 8-year-old since like 2020, where he pulled the same exact song and dance with Francis Ngannou that he tried to pull with Aspinall. Maybe it's because I had Asian parents, but when I was acting like a little shit when I was a kid, I was not rewarded with all the things that I demanded. I was beaten with a metal spatula. But I guess when you're really good at fighting, you can blatantly duck 2 of your greatest threats, fail like 5 drug tests, all while being a habitual felon and still get everything that you asked for because money. Simply put, if Jon beats Tom, then first I'd probably drown myself in my bathtub, but more importantly, he's either going to immediately retire or he holds onto the belt and we get thrown right back into the same cycle that we just went through where he defends his title once every year and a half against someone who's old and past their prime. If Jon beats Tom, his next title defense is going to be against Tai Tuivasa. Okay, now let's talk about Jon's statement that he released on Monday afternoon. I usually don't like to read things word for word, but for this one I have to. Despite the odds, I'm still training and optimistic about the thought of being part of the White House event. At the end of the day, Dana's the boss and it's his call if I compete that night or not. Ultimately, I know Dana was really excited about the fight and that the door hasn't completely been closed, and that's all the guy like me really needs. Sounds like another awesome goal to inspire towards. Sometimes alive, we're not gonna reach everything we set out to do, and that's okay as well, but I do like my chances. After all, 1 in a billion is exactly what it took to end up as Jon Bones Jones in the first place. Fix the grammar. So how much you want to bet that Jon wrote this while he was high on coke? At the very least, he was very drunk when he wrote this, and then this dumbass put it through ChatGPT to fix the grammar, but didn't even copy and paste it properly, hence why it still says fix the grammar at the end of the text. Regardless, Jon, piss off, dude. He is the only guy in the world, let alone the UFC roster, that seriously thinks he's entitled to everything that he wants, even after screwing over those around him, even when they had to pull a ton of strings in order to pony up the $30 million that he demanded. At this point, Tom should be the one demanding $30 million to fight Jon. Furthermore, if Jon wasn't a pro athlete, this guy wouldn't even be allowed anywhere near the White House, given how much of a danger to society he's proven himself to be. Jones embarrassed Dana in front of the entire fan base by letting him think that he was willing to fight Tom. Dana was preaching for the better part of a year that Jon was going to fight him, and then he backs out like a little bitch. Anyone with even an ounce of self-awareness would approach the situation with a bit more humility, but Jon's inherent narcissism is avoiding any and all accountability about his current situation, as usual. If he just fought Tom, he'd be in a prime position to headline the White House card, no questions asked. But the irony of the situation is that this opportunity to boost up his legacy is seemingly off the table because of all the antics he pulled in order to protect his legacy. But you want to know the most messed up part about all of this? I think Dana's gonna fold, I really do. I think at some point in the next couple of months, he is going to come to the conclusion that Tom versus Jon is in fact the biggest fight they can make right now that involves an American fighter. And in pursuit of making money as well as increasing the magnitude of the card itself, he's going to let Jon fight on the card. And then they're going to play nice for a little bit, Jon is going to act like he did nothing wrong, and of course Dana's going to go back to his weird Jon Jones glaze fest that he was doing for a while in order to promote the fight. I understand that Jon is the most decorated MMA fighter of all time, but in spite of that, I just can't stand him. But I also can't stand the thought of him grifting his way back into the spotlight after he made it abundantly clear that he didn't want to fight Tom under normal circumstances. And even though I've been loving what Dana's been saying on the matter thus far, I'm very worried that the UFC's bottom line, as well as the gravitas of the White House event, is going to make him yet again make the mistake of giving Jon everything that he's asking for. Unfortunately, I fully believe that Jon's going to be put on the card, then people who don't know any better are going to shower him with adoration, and he's going to pretend to not be an evil person as his face is plastered on CBS. Okay, let's talk about the Paramount deal. I love how for the first couple of hours into the announcement, we were led to believe that pay-per-views would be a thing of the past, but then Mr. Krabs came in and ruined the party by saying that pay-per-views are still on the table for the really big events.
Every year something happens that I don't see coming, you know, a fight that you never thought would happen, or who knows? I mean, now, you know, we're doing boxing and we're doing MMA. Who knows what could happen, and anything could be a pay-per-view. Something could be a pay-per-view still.
Okay, whatever you say, Dana. Russian link, brother, never pay. I am very, very surprised that the UFC is going to Paramount of all places. Earlier this year, it was rumored that Netflix was the frontrunner for picking up the UFC, and then people started saying that ESPN was trying to keep them, and then it went back to Netflix for a little bit, and now out of nowhere, Paramount Plus of all streaming services has come out on top. Let's break down some numbers really quickly. Currently, if you paid for ESPN Plus and bought every single pay-per-view, then not only would you be a fucking schmuck, but you'd also be paying over $1,100 a year to watch every single UFC event. And starting in 2026, in order to watch every single event, it's going to be like 1/10 of that because an annual subscription to Paramount Plus is $120. Obviously, this is much more reasonable than it currently is with ESPN, but even going back to the Spike TV days, if you wanted to buy the UFC 98 pay-per-view, you'd be forking out $44.95 for it. So even going back to 2008, if you bought 3 pay-per-views, that would cost more than what it takes now to watch all of the events on Paramount Plus. And you know what? I am still going to illegally stream these events. I don't give a fuck, because why would I go from paying $0 a year to be a UFC fan to paying $120 a year to be a UFC fan? $120 from $1,100 is great, but do you want to know what's even better than paying $120? Still paying $0. Sure, compared to $1,100 a year, $120 sounds like a steal, but do you want to know what's even more of a steal? Stealing. I've seen people online saying rest in peace to insert illegal streaming website name here, but nah, that's definitely not going to happen. When there is an infinite amount of illegal streams out there will always be a huge amount of fans that will opt for the free alternative.
Yeah, it's looking like we're going to do 4 big events a year. And, you know, we're talking about
4 big events? How is that any different than what they're doing already? Wow, great. 4 big events out of 43 events a year. I'm so stoked to get stoked for less than 10% of the cards. Thanks, Dana. You know what? The more that I think about it, the more I realize that the Paramount era of matchmaking is probably going to look a lot like the current era of matchmaking, and I'm not saying that like it's a good thing. The first 6 months of each year is going to be super underwhelming with like 1 legit card thrown in there, and then they'll start taking things a little bit more seriously in the second half of the year. The matchmaking matchmaking is probably going to stay the same. It could get worse, but it's definitely not going to get better. Overall, I am cautiously optimistic that this is going to be an improvement for the fan experience and hopefully for the fighters as well. Paying fans are going to be forking out way less money to follow the sport, and according to Dana himself, fighter pay as well as bonuses are going to increase starting 2026, which, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Regardless, I still do think that this is a win for all parties involved, but only time will tell if the UFC or Paramount or both torpedo the product itself. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know what you think about Jon Jones and Dana White's current squabble. Do you think Jon should be allowed to fight on the White House card, and what are your thoughts on the next era of the UFC? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
People were wondering if you would ever consider moving away from the show win model and maybe doing like flat purses across the.
Listen, man, this business has worked just fine. The model isn't broken. You know, I love when people who have no fucking idea what they're talking about and don't know anything about the business give input.